I wasn't sure if I wanted to stop using. All I knew is that I wanted to stop hurting. My name is Brandon. I was born and raised in Haralson County in West Georgia, and I had lived with both of my parents who struggled with substance use disorder, and I lived with my grandparents for the majority of my life. Well, the first time that I had ever came in contact with substance use disorder was my, like I said, my family, my parents. But no one really explained to me what it was. It was just a situation where I knew that my family, I knew that my parents weren't present in my life, but I didn't know why. And a lot of that consisted of them just not showing up, them not being there. And as a child, I didn't understand why my grandparents were capable of showing up to my baseball games and to school functions, but I really didn't know why my parents couldn't show up. When I started dabbling around with substances, I was about 15 years old. And it transpired from marijuana to methamphetamine to whatever that I could get my hands on. Eventually, within about a 2-year span, I started using methamphetamine with my mother. And I think that the reason behind that was that there was so much missed time with us when I was a child, and I think that in her mind the best way to make up for that was some commonality that we could share with substance use. At 17 years old, my mother was murdered because of her substance use. And the night that she died, she called me and asked if I could come pick her up. She said she had to go to Waco, and that was something that she didn't really feel right about. I was in high school, I lived with my grandparents, and that's where she died at, was in Waco. I couldn't go and get her. I like to think that if she wasn't doing drugs, she probably wouldn't have been in a scenario that caused her to lose her life. And after all of that, that's when things started getting worse for me. From 17 to 25 is when I really kind of fell off the deep end, and I was just using anything and everything that I could to not have to feel my natural emotions. Well, at 25, my family kind of intervened on me, and they said, you need to do something different. You're destroying your life, you're destroying our lives. And at one point, my grandmother told me that she wished that either she would die or that I would die, so that she would not have to go through the pain that she's been going through for so long. She said, I don't want to lose you, but I can't keep doing this. That's what kind of got me in the point where I felt that I needed to do something. And in order to stop hurting, I had to stop using. The first step was getting into treatment. I went into treatment October 30th of 2013, and I was in treatment for about a year, and I wasn't even really sure when I left to go to treatment if I was going to stay, if I was sure if I wanted to be in recovery. I didn't know that recovery was even a thing. I just thought that there was people that did drugs and there was people that didn't do drugs, and I was just going to stop doing drugs, and that my life was going to keep operating under the manner in which it was. And I came to find out that in order to stop doing the drugs, if I wanted to get better, I had to change everything. So that's what I started to do. I started to change the people that I was around. I went into a whole different line of work. The only time that I've came in contact with the people that I used to use with has been in recovery, now that they're trying to get their lives straightened out. When I got out of treatment, I got tied into the Fellowship of Narcotics Anonymous. It was the day that I got out of treatment. There was a lady that was celebrating 34 years, and I had no idea how somebody could celebrate 34 years. So I was like, I'm gonna go and check this out. I went, and I felt like I was at home immediately. And what I was able to do is I was able to use that fellowship to structure my recovery. I dived into service work. I started a group. I did what I needed to do to get better. And as far as the trauma that I had as a child, I had gotten to a point where, for 8 years, my mother's death, I couldn't even talk about it. I could not even, I wouldn't even bring it up. And when people brought her up, I would get super, super emotional. But what I was able to do is I was able to get to a point where I was able to give forgiveness. Forgiveness for myself, forgiveness for the individuals who were responsible for her death. Once I was able to do that, I was able to get better, I was able to grow, I was able to become at peace with the fact that my mom was gone. And I didn't think that that was ever possible. When this started, I'd done what I needed to do to obtain credentials as an addiction counselor, and I did that for about 7 years. And I had gotten so beat up with compassion fatigue that the clients were just numbers, and I knew that that wasn't conducive for what I was trying to do. So working in a peer-driven environment where I can use my lived experience to help others achieve recovery, that has become my new mission. Everything is different. The people that I'm around, everything changed. My taste in music changed. I became a completely different individual, and I was not expecting that. I just wanted to stop hurting. I wanted to stop using, and that was all that I expected to change. And during the process of recovery, during the process of getting better, I was able to grow into the man that I am today. I sometimes suffer from imposter syndrome because for such a long time I thought that I was just an addict, and that's all that I would ever be, is an addict. And I would find myself in situations and be like, eventually somebody's gonna figure me out and come in here and say, hey, you're not supposed to be here. That's my own stuff that I've got going on. That's my character defect. I've worked very hard to become who I am today. I'm a grateful individual that understands that there is hope, there is life past addiction, there is life past substance use disorder. And when you're stuck in your addiction, there is no hope. So I like to think that I try to provide hope to every individual that I come in contact with, because that's what was provided to me. Somebody gave me just a glimmer of hope, and that was what I was able to establish my recovery upon. Don't ever give up hope. Don't ever think that your loved one is incapable of change. The opposite of addiction is human connection. So if they can make that positive connection, they have a chance to find recovery. They have a chance to end substance use disorder.